It's time for Coach's Corner on KCCR and online at kccr.com. Coach's Corner is brought to you by Todd's Electric, James Pharmacy, Lamb Motors, Avera, Hawaii Federal Credit Union, and Edward Jones Financial. Coach's Corner is also brought to you by Graham Tire, Kruger Contracting, CHS River Plains, Gales Gas, Bank West, and Capital City Ford, Lincoln, and Toyota. From the KCCR studios in Pierre, KCCR award-winning sports director, John Winkler.
And a good evening as we welcome you here into the KCCR studios for another edition of Coach's Corner tonight. It's a football edition of Coach's Corner. We'll have another one of those at the start of the playoffs coming up in the last regular season for 11A and 11 AAA, and then the playoffs for 11B through 9-man. But tonight we're going to talk with Steve Steele, the head coach of the Pierre Governors, as well as Tom Moore of the Solebu's Chargers, Maxwell of the Saline County Buffaloes, and we'll finish out the program with Mike Kiefer of the Lyman Raiders. That's a big matchup between Lyman and Wall, 9AA versus 9A. The Raiders in the top 5 of 9A right now, and Wall, of course, the defending 9AA state champion. So that's going to be it's going to be a fun show tonight. We'll talk to all those coaches here this evening, and we will come back and talk with Coach Steve Steele of the Pierre Governors to start our program. You're listening to Coach's Corner here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com.
No one likes to have electrical problems, but when they happen, call Todd's Electric at 223-2518. With over 30 years of experience, Todd's Electric can handle any type of electrical problem, whether it's residential, commercial, or agriculture. Their knowledgeable staff knows and understands the importance of your home, business, or ag facility and are prepared to help. That number again is 223-2518. Todd's Electric Service, serving the Pierre Fort Pierre area. Todd's Electric Service, the line to power.
Why am I so sore?
There are everyday moments.
Whoa, hey, hold the ladder! Yeah, that hurt.
And there are epic moments.
Slide! College! Class of 1995!
When a moment creates a health need, visit the experts at Avera Orthopedics. We're moving health forward so you can tell the story. Learn more at avera.org/orthopedics.
Building a home. It's the biggest investment most of us make in a lifetime. Not to mention it's a decision that, well, you pretty much live with day and night. The quality of the workmanship stares back at you like a reflection. It also affects the value of your investment. Choosing the right contractor is critical. Kruger Contracting is that contractor. Call 222-2523. Quality workmanship and materials completed on time. Kruger Contracting. In a word, quality. Call 222-2523.
Hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined. So y'all can sit here and ask me all the questions y'all want to. I'm going to answer with the same answer, so y'all can shoot if y'all please.
This is Coach's Corner on your home for the Pierre Governors, KCCR, and online at kccrradio.com.
As we welcome you back to Coach's Corner here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. Joining me is Coach Steve Steele here of the Pierre Governors, now 4-0 on the season, a big win against Yankton. And, Coach, we're 5 days removed from that win on Friday night. And we'll go back to it here real quick. And how much fun was that game? When you look back from last Friday, how fun was it? What was the biggest takeaway from that win?
It's always fun to go down to Yankton and play at their stadium. It's just they're so memorable when they've got the big crowd and half their crowd sitting on our side, and it's a very big momentum builder for this team, and it's a good test to have early in the season, and one that we showed we can pass.
And now it's homecoming week. You're halfway through the week of trying to prepare for the game, but also all the festivities. For you, a lot of coaches are politically correct and they love homecoming. Deep down, they probably are ready for the week to be over with, or at least to get to the game. Because sometimes it can be a little bit difficult. But how much fun is it to especially here in Pierre, to have homecoming?
Yeah, it's always a cool week. There's just so many people out supporting. The community really comes out for homecoming, and it's always, every year it's the biggest crowd, which is a lot of fun. And they come out and support kids all week long, no matter the sport. So just a really fun thing to see, especially in a community like Pierre.
Is that the Steve Steele answer, the politically correct answer?
No, that's a good. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, it's obviously you've got more stuff going on, but I think the kids do a pretty good job locking in, and also wanting to get out and support their friends.
And I will say too, talking to some of those guys last week in the post game show, and saying about homecoming, and they were pretty straightforward too, saying we got to still be prepared. We can't let homecoming be a distraction. It's going to be a lot of fun. Homecoming is always fun for all the kids, but it's even more fun when you win a ball game, and to do that you have to be mentally prepared throughout the entire week.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They've got to continue to do that, and they know that. I think that's the really fun thing about this particular group is they understand the work that's ahead, and they understand the process it takes to get to it, and they're not trying to take a shortcut. They're not taking weeks off, and ultimately they want to have fun this week, but they know the most fun will be Friday night after a win.
And last week, and we'll talk to you about it in the pregame show again too when it comes to the game time, but last week you played in Yankton and 40 pass attempts from their quarterback. This week, not going to be as many. Still could be pass attempts, but their running back Juven Hudson is their guy, and they when they win ball games, they're going to win ball games on the back of his shoulders, and that's kind of how they go. So what's the difference between preparing for that defense or that offense last week and now getting the defense prepared for their offense this week?
Yeah, it's just a different form of discipline. I think the front seven, last week they could kind of unleash and have a little bit of fun. This week they've got to be locked in and in the right spot at all the times, and they've got to be sure tacklers. We can't allow him to have any space or any room to get going. Once he gets going, he's hard to stop. And then the DBs, just kind of the opposite mentality. Instead of kind of really having to zone in on their guy and follow him all over the field, they've just got to be ready for those play action opportunities where they're going to look to stretch the field and get everybody with their eyes in the backfield. So they got to have their eyes right even more so this week.
Now, the forecast, there's not too many times where rain is in the forecast for Friday night, and if it is, maybe 20%, 30%. This is more, that that's probably going to be raining. There's more of a chance that you're actually going to have some rain and some sloppier weather, sloppier playing conditions. Does that change the game plan at all going into this week, or does it? You mentioned too, the assignment football and filling the gaps. Is it even more so to hit the nail on the head of that? The game's going to be sloppy. You got to make sure that you're in your spot, because if you're not, you might be slipping and falling. It might be a difference between a house call or getting a stop.
Yeah, I mean, I think when there's bad weather and things like that, then all those little things become so much more important, because you can't just say, oh, we'll make a play or anything like that. If your footing's not good, then it's a lot easier to be in the wrong spot than the right spot. So it's going to be even more important if the field's wet or muddy that we're making sure our eyes are correct and we're in the right spots after the snap and throughout the play.
And you got great success running the football last week, and obviously the Pierre team likes to throw the football, likes to run the football, but with the weather the way it is, obviously it'll be game time decision on what the balance is of run pass. But are you looking to maybe having to run the football a little bit more when the conditions aren't as good?
Maybe a little. I think we've been pretty balanced, but I think the biggest thing is we just want to do whatever it is that we've got to do this year. We're not going to force a run if it's not there. We're not going to force a pass if it's not there. We're just going to continue to trust that, whatever matchups we have are going to be the ones that we need to win and the ones that the kids do win. And, whether that's passing or running, then, that's what we got to do. And hopefully the weather allows both of those options to be available. But, that's certainly a part of it too.
I think the times we've talked about it affecting the pass game, usually it's 50-mile-an-hour winds is what we're talking about, not so much water on the field and water falling from the sky. It's probably a little bit different too, and of course it could be great conditions by the time if the rain stops. It could be great. Even if the rain doesn't stop or is stopped, it still could be bad. I mean, and it's probably just fun to kind of have the unexpected happen this week.
Yeah, living in the middle of South Dakota, you don't know. We could have an 80% chance of rain and it could still be sunny. We don't know yet, and just like everything else, everything is always pretty fluid, and we'll just ultimately have to wait until kickoff and see what's happening, and then see what everything looks like, because until then it's just a forecast.
Talking with Steve Steele here, the Pierre Governors, as they take on the Watertown Arrows Friday night with coverage on KCCR and on YouTube at KCCR Sports. Kind of change things up a little bit. How's the fantasy team doing through the first 2 weeks? Any injuries that you've had to deal with that have seemed to been striking most of the league right now?
Yeah, so our coaches of the league here, I'm 2-0, and in very, very good shape. Team's been very good. In my other league with my brother's team, I took a heartbreaking 0.7 point loss. So it was lost by 7 yards. I saw there was a stat correction for Derrick Henry. I was hoping it was for 8, but it was only for 1, so it didn't quite get me there. But yeah, Aaron Jones is the one that kind of hurt this week, not being in the lineup. But at the same point, 1-1's not bad. It's a long year, but we'll see.
The unfortunate thing is that John Winkler is not keeping those stats, because it could have been an 8-point correction if I was keeping those stats.
Where are you when we need you, huh?
But and it's been it's been crazy too in the discussion of all the turf fields and the grass fields. Obviously, high school football, you guys are playing the road games. Most of your road games, if not all of them this year, have been on turf. Obviously the home games here on grass. Do you see a difference high school wise of turf versus grass? Maybe not so much injury, but just guys getting their footing and getting things, things are different between grass and turf.
We might see Friday night here pretty quickly. I don't know. I said it's always tough. I mean, if the grass is, if you have a year where there is no massive rain game where the field gets torn up, then grass is great. Then if you get a game that looks like might be what we're going to see this week, and you go out and it's abused really bad for 4 quarters, that's the hard part with grass, is it can kind of ruin it for the rest of that season. So NFL, they probably don't got to worry about that. They just fly in a new field from somewhere else that's been impeccably cared for 18 years preparing for it. So, I said it's one of those things that in some ways it's an advantage because not many teams play on turf. Watertown obviously doesn't yet. They still have their last field year on grass. I said it just depends. If it's great weather, relatively probably not a major difference. When it's really wet and sloppy and stuff like that, then I think you'll probably have a little bit better footing on turf.
It's amazing what a couple $1 billion would do for you.
Yeah.
In the NFL, being able to just doesn't matter to them. They can just bring in whatever they want because they've got they don't want to spend money, but they've got all the money that they can and they can spend on it. Talking with Steve Steele here, the Pierre Governors. They take on Watertown on Friday, homecoming game, and coverage will be on KCCR and on YouTube at KCCR Sports. Getting into this contest, what's the fun of going against a 3-1 team after having a 3-0 team, now a 3-1 team? Obviously, Brandon Valley next week. Those 3 matchups especially are against some really high-quality opponents, both in 11 AA and then 11 AAA. What's the fun of having those 3 great games with those teams with great records?
Yeah, that's what you want. You want to play great football teams. You want to go and have good football games. Obviously we had a great one last week, and, we're expecting another one this week and another one next week. And honestly, Huron's a really good team. T's a really good team. You could string a lot more together than we were initially thinking. So just very exciting to be able to have these kind of games, really throughout a month. It's a month of fantastic football right in the middle of the year. Really kind of finding out what you're made of, and ultimately you're going to be able to get through it with the pieces that you need to get to the end.
And final question here is the biggest reason why the Governors are now 5-0 when it comes to the end of that ball game.
I think obviously sticking Hudson and not allowing him to have the space to operate, and then offensively, again finishing those plays, finding ways to extend, medium games to long games to touchdowns, and not having negative plays.
Well, Coach, I appreciate the time. Hopefully the rain gear is ready to go for you. It's already probably maybe your wife's already got laid out for you for Friday night. But we're looking forward to a fun homecoming game, and we'll talk to you in the pregame show.
Thanks, John.
That is head coach Steve Steele, the Pierre Governors. We'll return with more Coaches Corner after this here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com.
Capital City Ford Lincoln Toyota is serving the central South Dakota community and beyond with a great selection of used vehicles. Local trades and program vehicles are available. New Toyotas and new Fords are arriving and selling before they even hit the lot. So don't wait. Stop in and find out what's coming. If you've been thinking about ordering a new Ford, stop in and sit down with one of our sales specialists today. Capital City Ford Lincoln Toyota at 518 East Sioux Avenue in Pierre. Call 605-224-7378 and visit CapitalCityFordToyota.com.
It takes hard work to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than just sports. It also goes for your financial goals. You work hard for your money. You deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. Your local Edward Jones financial advisor can help. If your investments aren't getting you closer to the win, visit edwardjones.com or stop by your local Pierre area Edward Jones office for a financial review. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Look, it's no secret that owning a vehicle can cause a lot of stress, and they get a lot of wear and tear on them through every season. Graham Tire wants you to know that you can trust them with any problem that you have with your vehicle. They have fully trained ASE certified mechanics on staff, ready to handle it for you. From brakes and bearings to alignments and front ends. Let their experience work for you. Over 50 years combined means you can count on them. So if it's time for a transmission flush or even a simple oil change, the only name you need to know is Graham Tire, 421 West Sioux Avenue in Pierre.
Let me talk to you.
You're listening to Coach's Corner on Central South Dakota's sports leader, KCCR.
Yeah.
As we welcome you back to Coach's Corner here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. Joining me is Coach Tom Moore of the Soybees Chargers as they get set to take on Harriet Selby area this weekend on Friday night up in Selby. Detail of the call on Country 95.3 and on YouTube at Country 95.3 Sports. But Coach, welcome back in the show again, and let's talk about last week's win against Cologne Cowboys. The second half, a fantastic second half for the Soybees Chargers. What was the difference in this game for the Chargers to go from a tie ball game to really roll through the Cowboys?
Well, the big thing was we had more possessions in the second half. Our possessions weren't very good in the first half. I think the first 35 or 38 plays, I think we had 1 3-and-out that was in there. They scored, went 3-and-out. They got an onside. They had the ball a lot the first quarter especially. So we just got the ball more, made a couple adjustments, and took advantage of it.
As we talk here with Tom Moore of the Soybees Chargers, it's got to feel pretty good. The offense of being able to score, but then the defense of being able to stop. I know a couple weeks ago when we talked about the offense being able to score 62 points against Sunshine Bible Academy, and then you said on the other end, well, we gave up 30 points to the Crusaders. Well, now the 14 points in this first half was all the points you gave up the entire game. How happy are you with how the defense responded and how the defense was able to get stops and not allow any more scores?
Yeah, I was pretty happy with that, especially in the second half. Again, they scored right before half. There was a minute or so left, so that kind of I wasn't real pleased with that. But we made them punt. We turned the ball over in fourth down a handful of times, and we haven't done that very often in the last couple of games. So that's great to see it. They're starting to mesh a little bit. Some kids are starting to play a little bit better and moved a couple of kids. So it was great to see, especially to pitch a shutout in the second half against them.
In Harriet Selby area, your opponent this Friday, always a tough and big contest between these two teams. They're coming off a loss to Ipswich 44-20. They're now 3-2 on the season after losing the first game, winning 3 in a row, and then losing this last game. On film, what have you seen from them overall in the 5 games so far?
The big thing is I think they got 10 seniors or so. I think they start 6 or 7 seniors on offense and defense. They're big. They've played in a lot of big. They've been in the Dome the last couple of years, so a lot of these guys, some have started since 8th grade and freshmen. They've played a lot of football up there. And Coach Randall does a good job with them. But like you said, they're big and had numbers and age, but there's still things that we can take advantage, hopefully, scheme-wise throughout the week.
Yeah, and that was my next question. Obviously, Leola Frederick, who beat them in week 1, maybe just a week 1 trying to get guys back in. You maybe don't look as much on film at that, but last week Ipswich winning by 24 points. What did you see on film in that game specifically that maybe you guys can take advantage of and do the same type of things that Ipswich was able to do?
Ipswich did a nice job of kind of being a 50-50 run pass against them. These guys are how they're built, how they're made, and their size. They're hard to run against in some spots. So, they took advantage of the pass a little bit, and that helped them with offense. But, Ipswich spent a bunch of time on offense, so that helps slow down their scoring with Harriet Selby because they do a good job of moving the ball. They want to move the ball.
Well, and now it's going to be the Selby area's homecoming coming up this Friday. You guys get to be the road team and not have to worry about so much the festivities that are going on. Is it fun to sometimes play? I know it's probably a double-edged sword of being the opposing team when it comes to homecoming for a team, but is it kind of, is there a little bit more excitement saying, hey, we can go ruin their fun on a Friday night? We didn't get our win on homecoming. Let's go ruin somebody else's homecoming to go pick up a win.
Yeah, you can kind of talk about that a little bit, but we don't really bring up anything with homecoming stuff. Even our homecoming, I know the kids know about it, but just try to keep it low key and try to keep it as much of a regular week. So practice is more focused on just the other opponent and getting better. But it'd always be fun to win your homecoming or win somebody else's homecoming kind of deal. But for me, I don't talk too much about that stuff.
Again, talking with Coach Tom Moore here of the Selby Chargers. They take on the Harriet Selby Area Wolverines. Kickoffs at 7 o'clock at Selby High School. DT Meyer will have the call on Country 95.3 and on YouTube at Country 95.3 Sports. Coach, it's hard to believe, too, that after you guys get done with this game, 2/3 of the regular season will be done in terms of weeks. So you have 2 games left after this week in the regular season. Obviously, you get your bye week next week. But how in the world are we at this point where you're coming into Game 6 and there's 3 weeks, along with your bye week, 2 more games left to go in the regular season? How is that possible?
Yeah, it's been a fast season. It's just with lots of different unique things with 2 afternoon games and dealing with a bunch of heat and just working with a bunch of young kids. We're always coach hard, but coaching harder than we probably ever have with all the youth that we have. So it's been extremely fast. At times, I wish you had another week in there to work on some fundamentals and some technique and stuff like that, but we're already Game 6.
Well, and the progression that you've seen over this season, obviously, Potter County is your least amount of points scored. You scored 20 against Stanley County, even though you lost. Scored 12 against Potter County. Everything else, you scored 20 or more points. But as the offense continues to grow, how have you liked their progression with a lot of these young guys?
I like it. We're I've talked about all year, trying to be a 50-50 mix. Wes had a decent game. He could have had a great game if it would have connected a little bit better, and receivers would have got underneath some of those balls. He could have had a heck of a game stat-wise last one, but just we didn't connect it. But it's there, it's close, and that's what we talk about as coaches. Things are getting closer. We're closer to making some of the plays that we weren't making, against Potter County, and at that time of the year. So it's a good progression to see.
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about this last year too when it came down to this portion of the season. Do you look at the standings at all? I mean, I know probably the first couple weeks, everybody moves up and down, even if you're 1-0 or 2-0 or whatever it is. Everybody's all over the place. But now that you're getting down the last couple of games, are you looking at the standings a little bit more? Are you trying to figure out, okay, if this happens, are you doing any of that, or are you still trying to keep that as far from your mind as possible?
Yeah, I don't look at that. I looked at maybe a little bit last year. This year, I'm not lying. I have not looked one time yet. I'll start worrying about that stuff, at maybe during our bye week and the week after, start trying to figure out who we might be playing. But with the way we're set up, we have so much work to get done during the week that we got to worry about that week's opponent and who's where. And if we make the playoffs, it'd be great. We'll host somebody. We'll travel somewhere. We'll do what we do if we're playing good football at that point.
Well, and not to bring it up to you, but for anyone listening that is curious, the Soybeans Chargers are in 10th place right now. But as you and I have talked before, that over these next 3 games, 10th place could mean 3rd place, 10th place could mean 16th place. I mean, there's a lot that changes. So right now, yes, sitting in 10th place, but overall there's going to be a lot to change as we get farther in the season here. And sitting at 2 and 3, Harriet Selby area coming up on Friday. The schedule does not. I know you probably aren't looking at your other opponents, Lyman and Corsica-Stigney quite yet. You're not worried about them until, especially with the bye week next week too. But this last 3 games of the schedule, very, very good opponents to go against.
Yes, yeah, it's very pivotal. I just watching scores on Friday night or Saturday, looking at things. These guys, our last 3 teams that we play haven't lost very much. So I know a handful of them return some good players back. So, we'll worry about them when we get to them. But just kind of looking at things, that I know Lyman's going to be good. Obviously, Harriet's going to be Harriet Shelby will be very good this week, and Corsica returns a handful of good players. So our hands are full. I know the next 3 games we have, so bye week will come at a perfect time.
All right, I'm going to stay on football for a second before we wrap things up, though, but I'm going to go a little bit different. Are you a fantasy football player? Do you partake in that?
I do not. I'm a big hunting and fishing guy, so I spend my weekends. I would be a donator if I was a fantasy. I enjoy watching it, but I don't. I do a lot of hunting and fishing in my free time, so that's what I spend my Saturdays or Sundays if I'm not at a jamboree or junior high games on Saturday.
You know that if you're going to spend some money, that's probably the best way to do it, instead of, as you mentioned, giving donations to the rest of the league. Because I'm pretty much in the spot already. That's I'm looking at okay, who am I going to donate my money to now for the year, because it's not going so well for me. So probably better for you, a little less frustrating.
With our elementary, we do picks of the week too, and I know I'm getting smoked in the picks of the week with my elementary, and so. Couldn't imagine going against people that really follow it and know what's going on. So it's fun to watch, but I never have, and I probably won't. I like chasing a deer or walleye or something instead.
Like I said, that's probably less frustrating, or at least if it is frustrating, you're still outside and get to enjoy the outdoors better than losing a fantasy football game.
That's for sure.
Talk with Tom Moore here, the Soy Beach Chargers. Okay, Coach, to wrap things up here, and of course, DT on the call coming up on Friday, 7 o'clock on Country 95.3 and on YouTube at Country 95.3 Sports. What's going to be the biggest reason here for the Chargers to pick up a win against the Harriet Selby area Wolverines?
The big thing is to defensively try to slow them down, obviously, but offense would be able to move. We can't have 2 3 and outs like we did on Friday. Be able to move the ball, score some points, take advantage of things that we can. And then just try to slow their rushing game down.
Well, Coach, hey, I appreciate the time as always. It's always fun talking to you. We'll talk to you again next week with the bye week. A little bit less stuff going on, but we'll still have a conversation with you next week. And looking forward to the game on Friday up in Selby. Again, DT will have the call on Country 95.3 and on YouTube at Country 95.3 Sports. Coach, appreciate the time. Good luck on Friday. We'll talk to you again next week.
You bet. Thank you. I appreciate it.
That is head coach Tom Moore of the Soy Beach Chargers. Back with more Coach's Corner after this here on KCCR.
Score big on your next vehicle purchase with Lamb Motor Company in Oneida and Gettysburg, Lamb Chevrolet and Implement in Oneida, and Lamb Auto Sales in Pierre. Check out their large selection of new and pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs at any one of their locations, or go online to lambmotor.com. That's LAMBMOTOR.com. Or give them a call today at 800-952-2222. Lamb Motor Company of Oneida and Gettysburg, Lamb Chevrolet and Implement in Oneida, and Lamb Auto Sales in Pierre.
People helping people.
Have you ever wondered what the benefits are of becoming a Owyhee Federal Credit Union member? At Owyhee Federal Credit Union, we reinvest profits in you. We do this in the form of lower interest rates, higher dividends, and low to no fees. So come check us out or come in at 221 East Pleasant Drive in Pierre, because at Owyhee Federal Credit Union, we treat our members like they own the place because, well, they do.
Owyhee Federal Credit Union.
Most of us already know that Gales Gas of Pierre is the place to call for propane. They offer an automatic fill plan so you never have to worry about running out of propane. They accept debit and credit payments or a budget payment plan to spread out the cost throughout the year so you never have surprises when you get your bill. For delivery, convenience, and great customer service, call Gales Gas at 224-5518. That's Gales Gas at 224-5518.
You're listening to Coach's Corner on Central South Dakota's sports leader, KCCR.
You like that? You like that?
As we welcome you back to Coach's Corner on KCCR and online at KCCRradio.com. Joining me is Coach Max Voth of the Stanley County Buffaloes. They are now 3-1 of the season. First loss of the year this past Friday against the bottom, 28-22. A comeback that almost was complete for the Stanley County Buffaloes. And Coach, take us through that game a little bit. Obviously, you want to see that win, but when you get to this point now on a Wednesday and through the middle of the week, you're probably looking back and saying, hey, our guys have a lot of fight. We didn't give up, and we almost got to that point of making something crazy happen there.
Yeah, for sure. It was mixed emotions, for sure, is the best way to put it. Because even, watching film with the team on Monday, we went over it, and, we could see that Bonhomme was, playing with a lot more physicality, a lot more aggression, and flat out they were desperate. They were really desperate in that first half, and they played like it, and we did not match their intensity, and we did not match their physicality in that first half, and it showed. It showed on the scoreboard. I think after it wasn't like we did a whole lot of adjustments at halftime. It was more of, there's a football game going on, and let's get involved. Let's get after it. We kind of saw that, they were as good as advertised, even though they had the record of 0-3 before playing us. And they've lost some close games to some good teams, and they were desperate for that win. But like you said, it was really good to see us gut that out and battle in that second half and really just keep going. To be able to outscore them, the 22-6 and the 22-7 in the second half really showed a lot of guts out of our kids, and they really played as hard as they could. And like I told them out at film, it doesn't feel like we lost. It feels like we ran out of time because, with how we were playing on the offensive side of the ball, if we could have just got that ball back one more time, I think we could have got the job done. But we just ran out of time, and hopefully it's a good learning lesson for our guys. We can't dig ourselves that type of hole and expect to get out of it. I'm proud of the work they did to get out of that hole, but it was just a little bit too much and a little bit too tall of a task.
Well, and you've kind of already answered my next question here, is because, obviously you love to see a win. You love to be 4-0 right now, but at 3-1, how do you take that loss into making it a positive and driving home points to the guys of being a good team that you are, that's still 3-1, but knowing that there's always that step to be taking and moving forward to being a better team?
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, Bonhomme they're a good football team. They're extremely well coached. Like I told you before, Coach Podwell has coached longer than I've been alive on this earth. So it's like anytime you go up against a coach like that, has all the answers and has coached that long and has that much experience, puts you at a disadvantage. But, our kids just did such a great job and battling back and making it a game. And the biggest thing is we cut up some parts of film and we showed them in the second half, run plays we ran in the first half versus how much better we ran them in the second half. And it was all about attitude and effort and just putting their head down and getting after it. And, we showed that we could run the ball on a good football team. We could throw the ball on a good football team. But, like we said before, to beat good teams, you got to play 4 quarters of good football. And we kind of got stuck playing only about 2. So, and that was almost enough to win 2, but it just wasn't enough. So hopefully a good learning lesson for our younger guys. And like I said, the most proud of it I was how we battled back. If it would have been us last year and we got down that big right away at the start of the game, with those young players that we had, we would have, it could have been a lot worse for us a year ago. But our kids really showed some guts and battled back and made it a football game. And I'm sure their side was a little nervous there late in the fourth quarter.
Talking with Max Fothier of the Stanley County Buffaloes. Before you start to move in the White River game, real quick, I know Noah Baldwin left with an injury on Friday afternoon, and it was serious at the time, and not that it's not serious now, but an update on how he's doing and if he's able to play this week or his process right now.
Yeah, we honestly got the best news we could have gotten from Dan Baldwin, our superintendent. Noah's dad, he let us know he got taken away in the ambulance Friday afternoon, of course, and it was with a neck injury. And anytime you have neck injuries on the football field, it's super scary. And the EMTs did a great job of being super, super cautious with it. They want to be safe with everything. And he ran a bunch of tests, and it looks like all his tests came back, nothing but good news. And it looks like it's just basically no real major damage. He's going to be sore for a few days here, and they just told him to take it easy. So we're going to follow our guidance with Coach Nas, our trainer, and we'll be able to go. Noah will be able to play whenever Coach Nas says he's ready to go, and he's feeling good. And hopefully that's Friday, and if not, hopefully in a week we'll be able to get him back.
And that's fantastic news to hear. And White River is your opponent on Friday, and they are a team at 3-2, and their combined record of opponents who they've beaten is 2-12. But the 2 losses they have, their combined records are 8-1. So not that they haven't beaten good teams, but they have had an up and down of playing teams with the lower records and then playing teams with the best records that have played so far. So what have you seen from them on film? Do you take more? With their last 2 games obviously being losses, but the most recent games, do you take more about those recent games, or do you look back to weeks 1 through 3 whenever they got those 3 wins?
Yeah, we definitely did a deep dive on these guys. We went back and looked at every game that they've played so far. Obviously, you can gain a lot of knowledge on that, and then you always want to kind of lean to, what they've done lately as well, and we've looked at quite a bit of that too. And one thing I'll say about White River is they've got some athletes, man. They got some athletic kids that are good on the basketball court as well, and they're shifty on the football field, and they can fly around, make plays. They've got a quarterback, the Marshall kid, that when the play breaks down, it seems like he's really slippery back there. He's super quick and hard to tackle and hard to wrangle around. And then, of course, they've got a 6'5" wide receiver out there, which a 6'5" wide receiver in 9-man football seems like a cheat code because it is, because most corners in 9-man are about 5'10", maybe at your tallest. So they definitely will have some challenges to them for sure. But some other things that I think were going to be a tough matchup for them as well.
Yeah, and so offensively, trying to contain that Marshall kid, and also the receiver in Wright, who stands at 6'5". How do you contain him inside the pocket? Try and keep him. Obviously, 9-man. It's there's a lot more space too. It would be a 9-man, but how do you contain him and try and make him stay in the pocket as long as possible, and let those defensive linebackers go to work?
Yeah, that's going to be a main focal point of practice here this week. How we rush the quarterback, rush lane integrity, how we keep him in the pocket, and how we squeeze that pocket down around him and give him no place to exit, no place to go. And then as far as the 6'5" wide receiver is concerned, I'm just glad we got Brock Zed at our free safety position. Brock is a tall, athletic kid that we could be able to move around the field, do a lot of good things with. So. And then another thing we're going to rely on, people have said it to me, other coaches, and we definitely see it too. We are an extremely fast team on the defensive side of the football. Even our defensive linemen can really run. So I think that's going to help us a lot as far as trying to contain that mobile quarterback and hopefully rallying multiple guys to the ball when they try to throw it up to that 6'5" wide receiver that they have.
Talking with Max Foth here of the Stanley County Buffaloes. They play at 7 o'clock at White River against the Tigers, as they'll be looking to go to 4-1. White River at 3-2 right now. Real quick, one quick question is, how's your fantasy football team doing with all these injuries that happen in the NFL? How's your team doing?
You know what? It's okay. I'm in my main league of won one, lost one. Kind of rode that Calvin Ridley and Tyreek Hill hype train in the first week, and then Ridley and the Jaguars took the week off and only scored 9 points for me the next week. So, it's early. We'll just say that. A lot of ball left, as one of my friends likes to say.
Well, and then how do you like how your 49ers have done through the first 2 weeks?
Man, it's fun to watch. I got that nice Sunday ticket on YouTube, really splurged and went and did that, and it's great to watch. It's fun to watch, and watching those Niners play. They just have so many, top-level NFL talent on their team that, it just makes them look easy at times. And I was honestly more impressed with the Rams than I was with the Niners. I didn't know if Stafford still had it in him, and it sure looked like it. The Rams played well, too. So it was Niners are off to a good start, which is always makes the weekend a little bit better when Michigan wins and the Niners win, even though we didn't get the job done on Friday night.
Okay, so now how do you get the job done this Friday night against White River? What's going to be the biggest reason for Stanley County to beat the Tigers?
I think the biggest thing for us is offensively, we want to throw the ball when we want to throw the ball. Not when not when we're behind, and not when the other team dictates it to us. So in order to do that, we have to do a better job of running the football in the first half. If we run the ball well on Friday night, that's going to open up a lot of play action stuff and a lot of deep shots that we'll be able to hit against their man coverage. So look for us to try to run the football well on Friday night. And if we start running the football well, then our big plays are going to come up after that. And then defensively, I would say, continue the quarterback. We just can't let Marshall break the pocket on us and go for big gains and, a 3rd and 7, and we have everybody covered, but he breaks the pocket and picks up a first down. So I think if we just contain the quarterback, keep him in the pocket, force him to throw in an uncomfortable way, and hopefully get enough pressure to get some sacks, we should put ourselves in a good position on Friday night.
Well, Coach, hey, I appreciate the time as always. Good talking to you. Good luck on Friday. We'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, John.
That is head coach Maxwell. The Stanley County Buffaloes will return with more Coach's Corner after this here on KCCR.
As community bankers, BankWest employees are deeply committed to supporting local causes, growing the local economy, and creating local opportunities. At a time when you can bank anywhere, we hope you choose BankWest. We'll be your financial partner for the long haul, helping you and your community achieve financial success. BankWest. Convenient, connected, committed. Member FDIC.
At Shane's Pharmacy, your healthcare is important, and Shane wants to be the pharmacist to take care of you. Shane's Pharmacy will make sure your prescriptions are filled in a timely manner, they will answer your questions, and they will even deliver to your home or office. Call 223-9200. Shane's Pharmacy, the pharmacy you know and trust. The number again is 223-9200. Shane's Pharmacy in Fort Pierre, proud to support high school athletics.
Hey you. Are you at a job that is fulfilling, has good benefits to support you or a family today, and retirement goes down the road? If you just said no, listen up. CHS River Plains is hiring operations personnel, drivers, and custom applicators at several locations. These come with a knockout affordable benefit package for you and the whole family. Apply to a job with CHS River Plains and up your benefits straight up. To apply, visit us online at chsriverplains.com or stop in at one of our locations. CHS is an equal opportunity employer.
That's a clown question, bro.
You're listening to Coach's Corner on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com.
As we welcome you back to Coach's Corner here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. Joining me is Coach Mike Kiefer here of the Lyman Raiders, who have a big contest against the Wall Eagles on Friday night. Finally get to be back at home. And, Coach, well, first you're 4-0, which is fantastic. Another typical Lyman Raiders start, 4-0 on the season. Always a team that starts out so well and so good and continues that through the season. But over the last two games, they've been pretty nerve-wracking. 28-26 over Kadoka, 34-32 over White River. Have you been able to sleep okay Friday nights and into Saturdays? I know they've been on the road, so a little dry, but have you been able to actually fall asleep right away Friday nights? Has it kind of kept you up a little bit, all the high blood pressure type games?
Well, I tell you, I think prior to the last 2 weeks, I think we had one overtime game in my 18 years, and we decided to go with two back-to-back. Really exhilarating to win two overtime games in a row, but also, like you said, stressful. You get home at night and you lay awake with your eyes wide open, rehashing the game and trying to get over the adrenaline that you had during the game.
And, before we really start breaking down these games and into this Friday's game against Wall, it's obviously it's better to be on the winning end of overtime games, but what does that tell you about your team, that two overtime games, two overtime wins? What does that really tell you about what the Lyman Raiders are all about?
From the coaching side of it, you look at, there was definitely some plays and some areas that maybe we could have avoided being in that situation, but there's always so many ups and downs in a game, and to have our kids respond the way they did and fight to the end. In the second one, it was kind of humorous because I had my seniors come to the sideline after regulation and said, "We know how to do this. We just did it. Well, let's go out and get it done." So that's really cool to hear and really cool to see our upperclassmen with that kind of attitude.
And the Lyman Raiders right now 4-0 with a 20-point win over Jones County, 24-point win over New Underwood, and then those two overtime games against Kadoka area and White River, both on the road. But now you're back at home, and it's going to be a big contest. Wall, the 9AA state champions last year, 9AA versus 9A. They're 4-1 right now in the season. How excited are you before you even started breaking down this matchup? Once you got past White River, once you got that win, how excited were you to say, hey, we get the Wall Eagles now, let's go after them here this Friday?
Yeah, it's just a chance to play against a really good team, a really good program, obviously. a team that's well coached. You kind of get to line up and see where you're at. They have talent everywhere, speed everywhere, tremendous depth, and probably I would say the best quarterback in 9-man football, and one of the best quarterbacks in my opinion in the state, in the Blasius kid. So it'll be a tremendous test for us, and we just are looking forward to the challenge, and like I said, to see where we're at.
And now when you look at, and obviously Walls kind of get in the same spot too, they've played Cadoca Area and White River the last 2 games. You guys have played Cadoca Area and White River the last 2 games. They were both at home. You guys were both on the road. When you watch film, do you feel like you're part of the Lyman coaching staff, the Wall coaching staff, the White River coaching staff, and the Cadoca Area coaching staff? Because you're watching the same 4 teams right now over the last couple of weeks. How is it difficult? Is it easy? How do you handle, seeing 2 straight opponents that you just played that they've just played too?
It gets a little redundant, but it's a little easier to gauge matchups when the other, the team they're playing, and you had just played them. It also can be scary too when you look at the film and see what they have to offer. So you just make the best adjustments you can. You come up with a game plan and move forward.
For this Wall team, what have you seen for them on film, offensively, defensively, that you guys need to watch out for, to try and stop, and then also maybe to try and exploit this week?
Offensively, it's pick your poison. Like I said, they have a tremendous quarterback and speed and receivers to go with them, and also their ground attack is no slouch either. So it's going to have to be. We're going to have to tackle well, because they're going to make plays, and they're going to put us in positions where guys are going to have to make plays in the open field. If we don't tackle well, it could be a long night for us. As far as defensively, they get 9 guys to the football. We talked about they do a great job of shedding blocks, getting off blocks, so we have to block to the whistle. And it's really simple for us. If we block and tackle well, which seems pretty crazy, we can play with them. If we don't block and tackle well, it could be a long night for us.
Again, talking with Coach Mike Kiefer here of the Lyman Raiders, and our first chance to kind of talk to you here on Coach's Corner. We'll talk to you another time here before the end of the regular season, and then getting in the playoffs as well. But last year, there was a lot of guys that made a lot of plays for you. But your senior quarterback, Tegan Gorno, Cooper Long, a receiver, that was a dynamic duo, and a lot of great pieces the Lyman Raiders had throughout the year. Obviously, those 2 guys were seniors. Now going into this year, of course, everybody outside of the Lyman Raiders wants to say, well, they've lost their 2 best players. The Lyman Raiders, they're going to take a step back. Well, here you are 4-0 again. The guys that have stepped up, guys that were juniors last year, and guys that didn't get the starts and didn't get much playing time last year, that stepped into these new roles. What have you liked about what these guys have been able to do to fill those roles and to still put you at 4-0 on the season?
It kind of goes back to we were talking about the last 2 overtime games, the heart and determination that our upperclassmen have had those games and throughout the season. But I do think it goes back to being around a crew of upperclassmen from years gone by that are laying a foundation that our kids understand what they need to do and how hard they need to work and what it takes to have a successful football team. And I feel like that's carrying on better than it ever has in our program.
And again, the Lyman Raiders, they take on the Wall Eagles at Lyman High School at 7 o'clock on Friday night. It's going to be a big, fantastic game. A couple of ranked teams, a couple of teams at the top of the 9AA and 9A standings battling at Lyman. And being at home in a matchup like this, obviously, you get to the state championship, there's no home field advantage anymore, but this can go a long way to help you be at home throughout the 9A playoffs. But being at home here against Wall, how nice is it to have that home crowd support and get that home field advantage?
It's going to be a special environment. The fact that you can get some of that speed and stuff off their turf is a definite advantage to us. It's their place is extremely hard to play, and we like to think that ours is the same. So anytime you have the home field advantage is obviously a plus.
Now, the forecast is kind of showing, obviously we're on Wednesday right now, so we got a couple days before we get to Friday night, but the forecast isn't looking so great to be a nice, perfect night of football, no rain, but that rain in the forecast, does rain affect your guys' game plan? I'm sure it affects everybody to some degree, but does it really affect your guys' game plan if there is a lot, some heavier rain, if the field's in not as great shape because of all the rain? What would that do? Because this is probably one of the few times that we actually have rain in the forecast on a Friday night that's actually sizable to make you think, hey, it might be raining on a Friday night during football. What does that do for the game plan?
Let it rain is exactly how I think. Let it rain. I would think that would definitely neutralize or help neutralize some of their speed. We're kind of a ground and pound team right now, and a straight ahead running team. I obviously when it rains, you have definitely more of a chance for turnovers and the ball slipping away and stuff like that. But like I said, if we can play Wall and not be on turf, and maybe with some suspect field conditions, I would think that would be in our advantage.
And I'm sure you've been around the game of football a long time. That getting a nice rain soppy type game makes it feel like old time football a little bit too, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. We've had the chance the last few years. I think we played in a borderline blizzard, and we've had some lightning issues and stuff like that, but a good old-fashioned soaked-up field and rain, we haven't had that very much, and we haven't had very much rain lately at all, so that would definitely be something different and experience for our kids.
Again, talking with Mike Kiefer here of the Lyman Raiders. They take on the Wall Eagles on Friday, 7 o'clock kickoff at Lyman High School. And, Coach, before we wrap things up here, final question is the biggest reason why the Lyman Raiders pick a win against the Wall Eagles on Friday?
Probably the two things that I mentioned before. We tackle well and we execute our offense and stay on blocks. That seems really plain Jane, but in watching film and just critiquing our guys from what we've done this season, those are two things that we can definitely improve on, and two things that we're going to need to do to play with Wall.
Oh, hey, Coach, I appreciate the time. It's always fun talking to you. We'll get a chance to talk in the regular season again here before we get into the playoffs, but we'll talk to you in the playoffs again. It's good talking to you here on Coach's Corner. Good luck on Friday, and, hey, hopefully the skies open up for you, but more importantly, have some fun. Hopefully it's maybe a little less stressful on the blood pressure this Friday, but good luck on Friday. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
That is head coach Mike Kiefer of the Lyman Raiders. We'll return with more Coach's Corner after this here on KCCR.
This fall, take some time to think about your future. While the leaves make their way down to earth and the last sunset of summer leaves us with an autumn chill, it's time to grab the nearest foam finger and break out the face paint. Rush the stands with First Dakota National Bank and forget how to blink. Fall sports are back with jaw-dropping plays, an electric atmosphere, and epic scores. Make some noise with First Dakota National Bank. Open a new account online today at firstdakotanationalbank.com. Member FDIC.
Let me talk to you. You're listening to Coach's Corner on Central South Dakota's sports leader, KCCR.
Yeah. And we welcome you back here into the KCCR studios as we wrap things up for another edition of Coach's Corner here this week. Same time, same place next week, Wednesday, 5:30 right here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. And, of course, you can go back and have playback of any Coach's Corner shows on YouTube at KCCR Sports. When this is already up on the on YouTube now. But we'll have, again, Coach's Corner next week, Wednesday, 5:30 here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. Want to thank our coaches and Steve Steele, the Pierre Governors, Max Voth of the Stanley County Buffaloes, Tom Moore of the Solebu's Chargers, and Mike Kiefer of the Lyman Raiders here this evening. We will be back next Wednesday, 5:30 right here on KCCR. You've been listening to Coach's Corner on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com.
You've been listening to Coach's Corner on KCCR and online at kccr.com. Coach's Corner is brought to you by Todd's Electric, Shane's Pharmacy, Lamb Motors, Avera, Owyhee Federal Credit Union, Edward Jones Financial, Graham Tire, Kruger Contracting, CHS River Plains, Gales Gas, Bank West, and Capital City Ford, Lincoln, and Toyota. To hear the show again, head to YouTube at KCCR Sports for shows at any time. This has been a special presentation of Riverfront Broadcasting Sports, Central South Dakota's sports leader.